My sister is one, obviously I love, and she would tell me how connected she was and how involved she was with her church and how much she loved it. And I was like, I was happy for her. And I almost wished I could feel that same thing, but I never had a connection with church. I was raised as a Methodist. I got baptized as a baby. I went through all the classes to become part of the congregation. I would go during Christmas and Easter and these holidays that you were supposed to, the big ones. But nothing ever connected. Thank Him for my wife, because she was really the inspiration of my life to come to me and say, I think it's time for us to find a church. If not for you, we got to do it for our kids, because we want them to have this balance in their life and to be raised with morals. And I agreed with her. And so I said, just let's find one. I was open to anything. And from the moment that I walked into Northview, it was like there was an instant connection. It was like everything that was not there suddenly I was filled with it just by walking in the doors. And I try to make things kind of humorous, and I don't think that everything with God should be funny, but I compared it to when I walked into Northview, I felt like I was walking into the Mall of America, because I was like, I've never seen a church look like this. I've never known that there are hallways and free donuts, and I call the coffee shop Jesus Bucks, because I never knew that a church would have a bookstore with a coffee shop in it. And I don't like to sound materialistic, but those were certain things that kind of I think it was just the fact that it was not rote. It wasn't that the tradition of church and hard pews and pick up your hymnal and turn to 349 and I've got to wear the right garb and I've got to have a tie on when I go to church, which is fine. If that's what is part of your church and your beliefs, then who am I to say what's right or wrong? But it wasn't right for me. And it was just like this church got me. Honestly, after the first baptism, when we walked out, I remember telling my wife, I want to get baptized here. And I felt like that was the next step. It was something that I felt like was in my heart. I was ready to take that on and be even closer with God and walk with Jesus. And I just never got signed up. It was not because I didn't want to. It wasn't because I was afraid. It was always an excuse. And then, the end of September, I got bit by a mosquito that caused me to get an infection in my brain and caused my brain to swell and caused me to go into a seizure-like shock. And I remember riding in the ambulance at 2 a.m. to the hospital and thinking first about my family. What is my wife going to do? How is she going to run the house without me around? I'm never going to be able to teach my son how to shave. I'm not going to see my daughter down the aisle. I didn't get baptized. On that way to the hospital, I was saying to myself, if I make it out of this, first thing I'm going to do next baptism is I'm going through. It took me about a month, 8 weeks to get out of everything that I was doing, and I got back into church. And one of the first services I got back, Steve said, all right, those of you that are interested in getting baptized, we're doing it in 2 weeks. You need to go through a baptism class. And the first thing I did was walk out of the door and go up to the sign up and get my name on the list. And I've got a buddy that lives in Atlanta that I went to college with that is flying in specifically to just watch me get baptized. And he said, it's something that to him and to a lot of people, he said, this is, to me, is as big as a wedding. And it means a lot to watch one of your best friends take that next step in his life and make that commitment. And Stan said something when we went through the baptism class. He said it's kind of like drawing a line in the sand, and you're saying goodbye to your old life, and you're going underwater, much like Jesus, and you're dying, and you're being reborn with some new direction and getting rid of all those past problems and issues and sins, and saying, I'm ready to, walk with you and take this next path and this next journey in my life. And so I'm really happy and excited and anxious to see where it takes me, and how, what I can do to help move Northview and make God and Jesus more a part of my life.